Hey everybody, welcome to the Baby Playbook podcast for yet another episode. And this one is a little bit about money. Now, money isn't something I guess we think about in terms of give it too much thought when a newborn comes into our lives. Everybody is talking about the baby. Everybody's figuring out baby sleep. Everybody's trying to figure out why they're crying. But one thing we tend to, I think, neglect is really putting ourselves in a good financial position to be able to spend this time with the baby, to be able to be at home, perhaps have a bit of maternity leave, have some partner leave, and get that all in order. Now, I know every circumstance is different and everybody has a different job situation, a home setup, so everybody needs to think about this in their own context. But one thing that many mums do think and talk about is taking maternity leave. So once the baby arrives, and it may be paid leave as well, but staying home with the baby and being given that time to really spend with them. But that all really does come down to money and being financially able to be so. So I'm really passionate about this topic because I think it's really important that we talk about it and that we're pretty realistic about it because, it's all beautiful Instagram photos and baby's arrival, but then there are the nitty-gritty things that we need to think about and set ourselves up for to be able to experience this new transition of our life. Now, part of course, our income, maternity leave, supplementary payments, all that sort of stuff is also superannuation. Now, superannuation within Australia, if you are listening, is of course a little bit of money that is put aside for you so that you are able to spend that money upon retirement and to be financially able to support yourself at that time. So you're working towards building your super by the time that you finish and you retire and you'll be able to enjoy yourself and have those funds. But of course, taking maternity leave might have a huge impact on this. So NGS Super found that it's estimated that taking 5 years off of work from the age of 29 to 34, which is quite common for a lot of mums and dads even, could shave $100,000 off a woman's average retirement savings. That is a huge chunk of money. And with more women than men taking primary carers leave in Australia, they're more likely to have that fragmented work pattern due to family care commitments, and on average, be learning a little bit less when they retire. So let's talk about this topic. I first want to pop in a quick disclaimer because we are talking about money. This is very general information only and may not be right for you. Read the PDS, FSG and TMD available at ngssuper.com.au. Investment returns are not guaranteed and past performance is not always a guide to future performance. I want to bring in our amazing guest today, Leanne Nunn, who is from NGS Super. She is the Senior Strategic Partnerships Manager. Thank you so much for making the time today, Leanne.
Thank you so much, Nicolina, for having me.
Now, your experience is vast. You are responsible for leading the development and implementation of partnerships across NGS Super, as well as facilitating education sessions and seminars for members, which I love. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to educate people about their super in all their different circumstances. You've got over 33 years experience and you host, I really love this, a national fun run and walk every year on Mother's Day, which raises much needed funds for research into breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And you're a mum yourself. It's all very exciting. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. Yes, I do have a lot of experience in super. It's a bit scary. I started in 1990. And the most part that I love about the job is doing the education sessions. So, imparting my knowledge to people, making them feel good about superannuation. They feel comfortable about it. And they usually leave smiling after my session. So that's my goal, is to educate and impart that knowledge as well. I'm also on Women in Super Committee, and that's the committee that was set up about 30 years ago. So we just had our 30th year, and we advocate for better financial retirement outcomes for women. So I've been part of that for a long time as well. So that's close to my heart.
Amazing. Well, let's talk about some of that education and get that out there. So talk to me about the current mandatory requirements for superannuation payments as part of maternity leave in Australia.
Okay, so currently there's nothing mandatory. So if you're working for an employer, they don't have to pay you maternity leave if it's not in your contract, etc. But the government funded paid parental leave, that's coming in 1 July 2025. and the Australian government will pay super contributions on top of the minimum wage, which is, I've written it down, $915.90 per week for 26 weeks. So that's something good, and I think it equates to $23,800 around about. So they'll pay superannuation on top of that, so that's $2,857. So, and that gets paid and administered by the Australian Tax Office. Services Australia does the payment of the $23,000. So that's the two-part thing. Employer discretion, so while not mandatory, an employer doesn't have to make super contributions when you're on maternity leave. Also, unpaid parental leave, the entitlement's 12 months of unpaid parental leave, and you can extend it to 24 months. So that's currently the situation. When I had my children, there was no paid maternity leave. So I think we've paved the way over the years for this to come in. It was very exciting for them to make this decision for paid maternity leave, parental leave.
Of course, and then that is on the government side. So of course we need to note that at the moment, as you mentioned, even though your employer perhaps may pay you maternity leave, part of those payments may not include superannuation unless, you know, that is a particular company policy. So it is something to think about, because I think with superannuation, you tend to not give it too much thought because it's not money in your hands right now. But it's important to make sure that you're building that fund and that you're continuing to put money into your future so that you set yourself up, you know, for great well-being and be able to have a great lifestyle when that time comes. So talk to me then, if those policies are not current in terms of employer policies, what are some true costs associated with parental leave when it comes to, I guess, missing out on these payments?
Yes, so you have, you know, your retirement savings less, of course, because you've got all that leave and you're not getting much super paid. So you're missing out on compound interest on your investments and your super, financial security at retirement. There's all sorts of things. The employer is not making the contributions, you know, if they choose to, it's part of policy. So there's a few things there that women do miss out on, and I do see that. So I see people, young people, a bit more aware of super now, so it's different. But people that are around 45, 50 onwards, women tend to have low super balances because there was no paid maternity leave, the superannuation, they might have not worked full time. So I do see a lot of women with low balances. So that's the main part of what happens when this type of thing, the paid parental leave, the superannuation payment, it wasn't available back then. So I think it's great now. And I think I worked it out that if you got the government paid parental leave, the full 26 weeks, plus you put $1,000 of contributions, the low income super tax offset, and then you got the low income tax offset, you could end up with an extra $5,000 in your super for that year that you have on maternity leave. So that wasn't there before. So that's a big difference now. So that's pretty exciting, and I'm really happy that this is coming into play.
Yeah, it's great to see that we're taking steps towards that as well, and this is perhaps just the start. Now, you mentioned a few different things there. I wanted to talk about some other options to, I guess, help grow and sustain your retirement savings whilst you are taking this step back from work.
Yeah, so there's the government co-contribution. So if you what's the pay? It's under $45,400. So if your income for the year, for the tax year, is under that, if you put $1,000 in, the government will give you $500, and they do it automatically. So you pay $1,000 to your super fund. In the next financial year, they'll put in $500 into your super fund. Everything's via all the information. It has to match with your tax file number through the ATO, etc. MyGov. So there's that one. So you can get extra money that way. Your spouse can make spouse contributions on your behalf. There's spouse contribution splitting, so they can split up to 85% of their concessional contributions. They can give you that if they want to. I have seen some members do that, and I was really quite impressed that the husbands decided to do that for the wives. I think that's good. Any personal contributions, looking at your investment strategy. So looking at the long term, if you're young and you've got a long time to retirement, you look at your investment strategy, decide, like, am I a risky person if I want to, put all my money into shares and see how I go? Or do you want to be balanced and just go with whatever the super fund has as a default super fund? So it's up to you. So you can make a difference there with your investment strategy, how much money you can make, so the compound interest. You can salary sacrifice if you have an opportunity, but a lot of people going through that phase when they're having children, that's probably not an option, because they might start off with a small amount, salary sacrificing, but yeah, they're the main ones that you can do to sort of catch up and help you get ahead with your super.
All right, I really love that there are options out there to be able to top up and to be able to kind of keep it growing. And one of those that you mentioned is working with your partner. And I guess if one of you is at home and one of you is working, having that conversation, being really open and honest and looking at the options as to how you can kind of even things out. I don't know about you, Leanne, but I know as a mum who was the one that took time off work, you already feel like you're taking a step back, financially. And even though you're at home with the baby, and of course that's important, there is something personal about, being not, I guess, contributing during that time as much as you were. So then, as you said, to come even to the end of retirement or pre-retirement and start to look at that bank account and see it, on a different level, it's kind of personal. It feels a little bit personal that, you can't really quantify the time that you spent with the kids at home. But, unfortunately, the facts are there and the numbers are there, and it feels like you're a step behind.
Yes. I do meet a lot of women that have that issue. They go, oh, look, I stayed at home, looked after the kids, and then I went back to work 10 years later. And they go, I did have super when I was young, and then that just sort of fell over. They forgot about it. So then they've come in 10 years later, only maybe 20 years in employment from when they started work again. So they're like on the back foot. And so they're trying to put more contributions in. They're trying to get their spouse to put contributions in. They're trying to catch up. And so they are more aware of it now. I feel comfortable when I talk to people because they expect to have $1 million in super, like everyone thinks. But that's not the case. And the account balances I see for women closer to retirement is about 100 to 200,000. So it's not even close. But they think it's not much, but it's actually like the average that I see. So so just to keep women on track, make sure they feel like someone's listening to them, and I try and give them as much assistance as I can, explaining all the ways to improve their super situation and increase their balance.
Amazing. And can you share, Leanne, with us where, I guess, we can start there? Where could we go to find a little bit of extra information to kind of arm ourselves with some information on what perhaps the government is offering and what perhaps we can do internally within our superannuation accounts?
Well, usually your super fund's the best, so you're always best to log in online. So when I meet with people face-to-face, our members or non-members, and doing sessions, the first thing I tell people is, have you logged into your account and checked your account balance or opened the envelope when your statement comes? And then most people put their hand up and go, no. So they don't even look at it. So for me, I try and get them to that stage. If I'm sitting with them one-on-one, we'll log into their account and then we'll start and we'll go through it. So that bit. So logging in online, knowing that you've got all your information there. And then usually most super funds have got pretty good apps or online logins, and you can just, everything you can click on and it will tell you, gives you information. So it's got little question marks that pop up and everything's very easy to understand. So I always tend to push people to do the online because everyone's used to phones now. So online's easy. You don't have to, read huge letters that you get from a super fund. If you go online, you can see, you can track everything. So, and I usually, with NGS personally, we have a lot of fact sheets that are really easy because we've got an amazing team that put these fact sheets together. So the fact sheets, I always have them printed out and I give them to people, or I show them where they are. If I'm talking to someone that's not with NGS, I'll show them on the website where to find fact sheets. So fact sheets are your best bet because they're written in a way that are easy to understand. There's lots of tables, pictures, so it's easier to understand. So I sort of push people to looking at fact sheets first. Product disclosure statements, the big documents that super funds have to produce, they're really good too, but the fact sheets are the best way to start on your superannuation journey and understanding all the jargon and everything around it. So, yes, that's what I sort of help people with.
Well, thank you so much, Leanne. I think it's really important to get on the front foot with this as well. It's perhaps a conversation you should have, if you can, before the baby arrives and when you are doing all of that admin planning, when you are locking in your maternity leave. This should be part of that conversation. So thank you for sharing all of that information. You can, of course, go to www.ngssuper.com.au to find out more. And on Instagram and Facebook, you can follow them along with some tips and tricks that are posted there as well. Thank you for your time today, Leanne.
Thank you so much, Lena.